Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose, and we got some big leaks to talk about today. Fans have often wondered what Konami is up to. They seem to be distancing themselves from hardcore games, but we've also been hearing about how they're outsourcing Silent Hill. I mean, we just talked about this yesterday, and how they might actually have 2 Silent Hill games in development. Well, according to a reliable source, Silent Hill is not the only IP that they're outsourcing, and they might be working on some even bigger games that fans are going to be absolutely thrilled about. I know I am, so we're definitely going to be talking about that today. Also, we got some Xbox Game Pass stuff to talk about, and Nintendo continues to absolutely dominate Japan, but it's interesting to look at how Nintendo has improved over the years, so make sure to stick around for that as well. With that said, let's get right into the news. A couple games hit some major milestones this week, including Valheim and Tales of Vesperia. Now, we just talked about Valheim a few days ago. This game is just blowing up online right now. Fans are loving this game over on Steam, and many people consider it to be the best survival game out right now. It's only been available for a few weeks though, and just 5 days ago they announced that it had sold more than 2 million units. Well, they're now up to 3 million units. Yeah, this game is selling at a very rapid pace, and I fully believe it's not going to slow down anytime soon. When all said and done, this will be one of the most successful games to release this year. And what's crazy about all this is that it's still an early access game. The developers are still adding a ton of new stuff to Valheim, so this game will without a doubt get even better, which is amazing to think about. Over on Steam, Valheim has overwhelmingly positive reviews, with 96% of all reviews recommending it. That's very rare for something as popular as this being in early access, also being that positive. So big congrats to Valheim, and if you haven't checked this game out, go do so. Also, Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition has reached 1 million units sold, and this is impressive in large part because this is an HD remaster of sorts. Tales of Vesperia has been around since 2008, but luckily they gave it an HD remaster, and it looks like that was the right call. I do consider this game to be one of the better JRPGs ever made. It's certainly one of my personal favorites because of the story and its characters. I can't say that I've liked all of the Tales of games, but Vesperia is special. The story is just so good in my opinion, with likable and charming characters. If you have missed out on this game, and if you like JRPGs, I do recommend it. It has a timeless art style, so you can pick this up on whichever platform you like. It runs great on the Switch from my experience, and it also is available on the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and the PC. Next up, let's talk about an Xbox console exclusive, Second Extinction. It has been available on Steam through early access since last October, and this is an interesting title. It's a 3-player cooperative shooter where you're faced up against a bunch of dinosaurs, and really, we need more good dinosaur games. I've wanted Turok and Dino Crisis to return for years and years, but it doesn't really look like those games are coming back anytime soon. But we do have Second Extinction. This is a very different type of game and kind of fits more in line with something like, let's say, Left 4 Dead. Not exactly the same thing, but there is a heavy emphasis on its cooperative gameplay, and really it just looks like it's mindless fun. I don't know if this game will review well per se, but it does look like a lot of fun. The question though is, when will you be able to play Second Extinction on your Xbox? And well, we now have a new release window for Second Extinction. They're currently planning to release this game sometime this spring, so we could get this rather soon. Again, this could end up being a really fun game, whether you like cooperative games or if you're just looking for a good dinosaur game. Now we just need to see how it all comes together once it officially gets its full release sometime this spring. Make sure to let me know what you think about this game in the comments below and whether or not you're looking forward to it. Also, I have a quick update for Nintendo's most recent release, Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. We got some new sales numbers over in Japan, and check this out. Mario 3D World sold a whopping 250,000 units in Japan alone, which more than doubles its original release for the Nintendo Wii U. We've talked about this before, but this is the exact reason as to why Nintendo is bringing these Wii U games over to the Switch. They're basically giving these games a second chance, and they're being rewarded for that. I think the Wii U is an underrated console with some really good games, and it's proving exactly that on the Nintendo Switch. How does Bowser's Fury compare to other Mario games though? It actually opens up as the 6th best opening for 3D Mario games over in Japan, and it even beat out 3D Mario All-Stars that released for the Switch just last year. It's still a ways away from Mario Odyssey, which opened up at 511,000 units in Japan. But for a remaster, 250,000 in Japan is very successful, and we saw similar success in the UK as well. Really, I think Nintendo needs to continue porting these games over to the Switch. We're already hearing that Zelda Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD will come to the Switch sometime here soon, so hopefully that's true. Either way, I really have enjoyed seeing Nintendo's success in recent years, and I think that they will continue to be a behemoth for years to come. Now, onto a different game that has been out for a while is Final Fantasy XIV. This game has had such an interesting development cycle as it originally released in 2010 and was a complete failure. It was just not a good game when they first released it, and then they changed some things up and re-released it in 2013, and from that point forward, it has debatably become the best MMO on the market. It kind of shows you how a game can make a drastic turnaround, and what makes this game really stand out is actually its story. Yes, it is an MMO and there is that social aspect to it, but much like the mainline Final Fantasy games, there is a good story here, and they just keep making this game better and better with each and every expansion. I mean, if you talk to the Final Fantasy community, a lot of fans consider some of the Final Fantasy XIV expansions to be among the very best the series has ever had, which is saying a lot. This is a legendary franchise after all, but how long will Square Enix support this game? Well, I got some good news for you because Square Enix revealed that their user base continues to expand and grow, and they plan on supporting this game and its community for at least another 5 years. And you know, MMOs can last a very long time, so it really wouldn't be surprising if it goes even further than that, though of course that does depend on how successful it is 5 years from now. If you look at games like World of Warcraft though, I mean, you never really know how long these games will last, and that's the thing. Head of Xbox Phil Spencer said at XO19, I want to say, that they're working on bringing Final Fantasy XIV to Xbox. So that user base can continue to grow on an additional platform on top of its already established user base on PC and PlayStation when that does eventually happen. It might not be anytime soon, but it does sound like Square Enix has some big plans for Final Fantasy XIV, and that's great news to hear. And speaking of Xbox, you all know I love Xbox Game Pass, and it's always nice to get an update on how good this subscription service is doing. There's always that concern among some fans in the community and how successful developers can truly be in Xbox Game Pass. And that's where Sega comes in. They've been a big supporter of Xbox Game Pass by launching games such as the Yakuza franchise into it day one, and then they have games like 2 Point Hospital amongst several others. It's no secret that Sega and Xbox has been very buddy-buddy as of recent, and I think a large part of that is because of Xbox Game Pass. And while talking to Eurogamer, Sega said that they are really happy about their results from being in Xbox Game Pass. They went on to point out that it helped propel 2 Point Hospital to 3 million players worldwide, and actually, let's just take a look at what was said. It helped propel the franchise to over 3 million players worldwide. That's a huge benefit of being on Game Pass. It strengthens the exposure you get to a huge first-party audience. That surge in engagement in turn helps to further establish your product in the marketplace. It's great for us, and it's great for consumers who get to experience something they may not have engaged with outside of the Game Pass model. And you know what? This is one very important thing about Xbox Game Pass: exposure. A lot of fans seem to miss this, but when a game gets exposure, and then fans talk about that game, that's when you can really start seeing success, especially with some of these lesser-known games. As an example, I would have never played some of these games if it wasn't for Xbox Game Pass, but then I go play it, and then I talk about it online. Now that success may not only translate to just Xbox itself, but a person hears me talk about it, and then let's say they pick it up on Nintendo, PlayStation, or PC. It's all same to the publisher. That exposure can go beyond just Xbox for multi-platform games. But we are hearing of several success stories for Xbox Game Pass as of recent. Just last month, the Medium, which is an Xbox exclusive, met development cost after I believe it was just 1 day. So you're hearing this time and time again about how these games have been successful on Xbox Game Pass. I think we're getting to the point that we don't really need to show this constant concern over Xbox Game Pass and can it be successful. Sega is just the most recent success story, but far from the only. Developers wouldn't put them in Xbox Game Pass if it wasn't working, and Microsoft wouldn't commit to a service like this if they didn't believe in it. It's just an awesome service, so it's always nice to hear these success stories, and this is not only good for fans, but it's good for the developers and publishers themselves. Now we need to talk about this big leak that's going around, and this is actually very exciting. Yesterday there was a lot of talk about Silent Hill having 2 games in development, and this was reportedly with Konami outsourcing Silent Hill. As we all know, they have kind of gotten away from developing AAA games, but they do have valuable game-related IP, including Metal Gear Solid and Castlevania. Now, I am a big fan of the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Back during the PlayStation 3 era, this was one of my absolute favorite franchises, but now that Hideo Kojima has moved on to his own studio, Metal Gear has slowly vanished into the sunset along with Metal Gear Solid 5. But what if Konami decided to bring these games back as well? And that's exactly what we're hearing right now. This is coming from the Video Game Chronicles, where they say their sources said that Konami plans to work on the Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid games through external companies, though they quickly pointed out that these games are still likely years away. Even then though, that is incredibly exciting. VGC is a very good news outlet with legitimate sources, so to know they've been hearing that these games are out there is great news. The main concern now would be who will develop these games, considering Hideo Kojima has moved on. His footprint is all over this franchise, so if it's a completely new game, you have to wonder how different will it be. However, they could easily get around that by doing a remake of the first game. We have seen remakes be very successful in recent years, and interestingly enough, there has been an ongoing rumor of a Metal Gear Solid remake being in development. I don't know how true these rumors are, but it was linked to being a PlayStation 5 title. Again, I don't know about all that, but if there is one studio that I would trust with the Metal Gear Solid remake, is a studio that PlayStation goes to a lot, and that is Bluepoint, the studio behind the Shadow of the Colossus remake, and most recently, Demon's Souls. These are absolutely amazing games, and I don't know if there is a better studio right now at doing remakes for AAA games. So that would be my go-to for Metal Gear Solid. As for Castlevania, Konami could go into a few different directions here. You have the 2D Castlevania games, and then you also have the 3D ones. Now, if you're to ask me, I think they should just go ahead and make both. The Metroidvania genre in recent years has blown up, and even with Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which is a spiritual successor, it has been a massive success. So Konami could work on a 2D game and 3D. You know, if you think about it, Team Cherry, the developer for Hollow Knight, would be a fascinating choice for a 2D Castlevania game. That could make for a really good game. I'm not saying that it'll happen, but this is exciting. Let me know what you think about all of this, though, in the comments below. On to our final topic, though, the poll of the day. And with Nintendo still not committing to a 2021 release date for Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, there has been that concern that it won't release in 2021. So far, Nintendo has said more information will come in 2021, but what about an official release date? Well, I asked you if you thought Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 would release this year, and you all do not seem too confident on this. 72% of you believes that it will not release in 2021. I do hope it releases this year, and I'm sure many of you feel the exact same way, but it is a big question mark. I think what could happen is something that we saw with Mario last year. They released the Mario Collection last year as a part of Mario's 35th anniversary, with some other cool additions such as Super Mario Bros. 35, but the premiere release was Bowser's Fury, which released a couple months after 2020. So now it looks like Nintendo will release multiple Zelda games this year. They have confirmed Skyward Sword HD, but if leaks are to be believed, then Wind Waker and Twilight Princess will come later this year. Those could end up being big holiday releases alongside a new Pokemon, and then if Breath of the Wild 2 does miss 2021, they could release it just a couple months later. We'll see how all this works out, but you know, no matter what, I think this will be a big year for Zelda and Nintendo fans alike. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.